Hi everyone, it's Lesley here at Hungry Happy Crafts, Lesley Oman. Thanks for joining me for another video. And I'm not even sure whether this is a Valentine's card or a Christmas card. It was just me having some fun. I sketched this card in advance, so before I started recording, I've actually prepped a lot of the die cuts because there's quite a lot involved in this card. I've been using the stitched rectangles die from Fawn, and I've created a couple of frames using the large stitched rectangle die in the large set and the largest one in the smaller set, and I've cut out also a background from some fog cardstock or a light grey cardstock. The main stamped part of my card is actually going to be these birch trees from my Fawn Joy to the Woods stamp set. I really think these are so cute. They stamp so well, and it's a really excellent way to build up a forest scene. So I'm actually going to be stamping this onto a light grey cardstock, and I'm using Memento Tuxedo black ink because I'll be adding a little bit of color to these guys. Now these actually come with coordinating dies, so I'm stamping them with a little bit of a gap between them to make sure that when I run it through the Cuttlebug, I've got a nice even border all around the outside. Once I've stamped all of the birch tree branches, I'm able to move over to my deer, and this is a Cottage Cuts die. It's a little bit of an older die, so it's a solid die in a rectangle, as you can see there, but it comes with some little tiny embellishments as well. So I ran it through on some craft cardstock, as you can see at the top left of the video, and then there's a lighter colored cardstock where I ran through all the little patches and other embellishment bits that you can add onto the deer. In order to assemble the card, I have decided to layer on top of a piece of white cardstock, and the first thing I'm going to add is this glittery blue, it's actually scrapbook paper that I ran through using the rectangle die, and that's going to be my background. It gives such an amazing sparkle. I think it looks lovely. I've also used some Paper Smooch's border dies to create some stitched lines, and this will create almost like a snowy hillside, a snowy scene for my forest. So I'm just playing around here to get them in the right position before I start sticking them down. These are my trees. Some of them have just got one tree, other is a pair of trees together, or tree trunks. And I'm sticking these straight onto the background, but some of them will be tucked in front of the furthest snowy mound, like this. And that helps create a sense of dimension for the card. Now that I have my trees stuck down, and also I've stuck down the snowy borders, I can trim off any pieces that are overhanging on the outside of the card. So here's a little deer. What I'm going to do now is cut off his back legs because I want to create a sense of a shadow, and I thought I would just cut them off, add some ink, and then I can stick it back together again when I'm putting it onto the card. So I'm going to be using some walnut stain distress ink for this with my ink blending tool, and very carefully add some of the brown tones to this little guy's legs. So now I'm ready to stick him onto the card. For the main part of his body, I've used some tape runner, but for his legs and ears, they're much finer, so a glue pen I thought would be better for that. He's going to go right here. You can see that I also added some of the distress ink to his tail, and I'm adding this back leg back onto the deer, but it's a slightly darker colour than the rest of his body. The same with this front leg. Now I'm adding all the little tiny embellishments. Like I said, I cut that out of a slightly lighter colour of craft cardstock, and I'm using a glue pen to add them onto the card, and using some tweezers to help me with the little fiddly bits. There's a part that goes over his eye like a patch. There's a piece for the inside of his ear, and then there's some little tiny pieces like freckles for his rump. For my greeting, I wanted to add a vellum heart, but I didn't actually have any heart dies at this time, so I cut a heart shape with card, or out of card, and I'm simply tracing that onto some vellum, and I'm going to be using that to add my greeting. I've got this stamp set here, and it says, "I love you with all my heart." It's from My Favorite Things Pure Innocence collections. It's called "Love You with All My Heart," and I'm simply just cutting it down to size. I'm cutting it apart so it will fit on there. I knew I wanted to write "Dearly," but I didn't have any stamps, so I pulled out some of my old stock. They are 2x2 dies from Quick Cuts, now called Lifestyle Crafts. So it's a very good way to add text to your projects, but just by simply die cutting different letters using the letter dies. So on each of these dies you've got 4 or 5 different letters, so I'm simply taking a little bit of black cardstock, positioning it exactly where I want it to go underneath the die, sticking it down with a little bit of washi tape and running that through my Cuttlebug. You can see that I've embossed the "I love you," and I'm just rubbing away some of the pencil marks, and also there's a little bit of glue that stuck out from the behind that tree, so I'm getting rid of that. And I want to be able to stick this onto my card, but I don't want any glue to show through, so I thought what I would do is actually tuck the point of the heart underneath the frame. But before I do that, I want to make sure that my wording and my text is centered. So I'm going to stick the vellum to my work surface just to make sure that it doesn't move around, and I'm going to stick down these letters using some tweezers and a glue pen, and I'm actually starting in the middle and working my way out left and right. I find this is the easiest way to make sure that it's quite evenly spaced. Now my love heart says "I love you," and it has the word "Dearly" on it as well. I know I'm ready to stick that onto my card. I've cut out a couple of frames using with some white cardstock or out of white cardstock, and I'm going to build up a couple of layers of just using the white cardstock, and then finish it off with that light grey fog coloured cardstock on top. I wanted it to create a bit more of a chipboard effect with the frame, so that's why I'm using several layers to build up the outside frame. Before I stick down that bottom layer, I want to make sure that I tuck in my vellum heart underneath it, and it's going to help secure it onto the background. So now that's trapped and stuck on the right hand side and the bottom, I don't need any more adhesive to keep that in place. Just adding on the extra layers of frames and making sure they're all lined up nicely. Now I need to add some final touches. I'm going to give the deer an eye using my Secure Glaze pen, and I'm also going to add a little nose for him as well. I thought it'd be nice to go over the word or the die cuts dearly using that glaze pen, the black glaze pen, and in actual fact what happens is it really looks like it's been embossed and ties in and coordinates with the embossed I love you grating just above that. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this project, and please visit me at hungryheffycrafts.com and give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. Have a great day.